Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Tim from Timber Ridge Gifts. So I got an order for a really huge candle. I thought I'd make a video of it. It might end up being pretty cool. Um, Usually I only make 4 ounces, 8 ounces, and an occasional 16 ounce candle. In the past I've made bigger candles. This is a half-gallon candle that I made. I have made a 1-gallon candle. This order is for a 2-gallon candle. This beast right here. After I made these two, I saw this one. I really wanted to make it, but because of the amount of supplies that goes into it, I couldn't make one just for the heck of it. I had to actually wait till I had a customer that wanted one, so I could actually afford to make it. But thought I'd make a cool video. If it turns out like I hope it will, it'll make a cool video. If I fail miserably, I'm going to end up wasting, hundreds of dollars in supplies. That might make a cool video too. So keep watching, check it out. Alright, so here it is. This is the container for my 2-gallon container candle. When it's all said and done, this is going to be 16 pounds of wax. Container weight and all, this finished product is going to be about 25 pounds. It's going to cost a lot to ship. This one's actually going to California. So they must really want it. Going into this, I know I'm going to run into quite a few issues that I'm not normally used to. One of the first issues that I realized I was going to run into was the wicks. Most of your pre-tab wicks, the biggest ones I can find are 10 inches. This container is actually 11 inches tall, so these aren't going to work. Was able to find a solution though. I can just make my own. You can buy the, it's the same type of wick used in these pre-tabs. Just comes in spool form, and you can buy your own tabs. So I'll make my own for this. That issue solved. On to the next issue. So now that I've got this wick issue solved, the next issue that I'm going to run into is how to actually arrange them. Now I could just throw a bunch in there and make it look like a candle, but I actually want it to be able to function as a candle should. With most candles that you do, you're going to want to do your test burns. It's where you actually make a few tester candles to make sure that your wicks are burning properly and everything's working right. Obviously, with the size and cost of this, I can't just make just a complete one of these as a tester. So I think I found a solution. I actually found this round baking pan. It's the exact diameter of this candle. So hopefully I should be able to just set some wicks in here, make sure I've got everything just right. It's not going to be exact, but it should give me a good enough idea of how my melt pool is going to end up. Make sure everything's going to burn like it should. Next issue on top of that is they don't make wick bars that will actually fit this and hold all the wicks. I'm thinking this is probably going to take 5 wicks. You're not going to find anything pre-made that's going to work for that. So I'm going to have to make my own for that as well. And for that, I found these jumbo popsicle sticks. Should be able to drill holes and glue these together and make something that'll actually fit and hold my wicks together while it's drying. So we're going to start on that. Okay, so I've got my wick set for my tester, and I've got my improvised wick bar made. We're going to put it all together and get it ready to pour my tester. Okay, so we've got the wax that we're going to use for our tester. It's cooled enough to pour. I'll go ahead and show you the tester real quick. See, I've got my homemade wick bar in place. I've got some clothespins to hold it in place. So all that's ready to go. We'll go ahead and pour our tester. Hopefully in a couple hours this will be ready to burn and we can make sure we've got everything right. If I haven't accomplished anything else in this video, I've at least shown you that you can make a candle out of just about anything. Okay, so we'll give that probably overnight to cure. And we'll burn it and make sure I've got everything right. I decided to go with a 5-wick pattern. I'll spare you guys the math that I used to get there, but just on the experience I have from other big candles and just some basic math that I use, I think this is going to be the best wick pattern to use. But we'll let it cure. I can burn it and we'll find out. Okay, so we've had this going for about 2 hours. You can see I've got a nice little melt pool going. Didn't quite go to the edges like I'd hoped it would, And I'm kind of thinking in a container where the top holds in a little bit more heat. That'll fill all the way out. Wicks are nice, non-flickering, so they're burning good, not clogged. I think that's what we're going to go with, so hopefully when we put that in the real thing, it'll work out. Okay, just about ready to start putting the candle together. Just wanted to show everything that I've got set up, what's actually going to go into the candle. Got my jar all cleaned up, got my wick set. I have got 15 pounds of wax that's going to go into it. There's my candle dye, it's going to use most of that. And my fragrance oil, it's going to use pretty much all of that. So time to start melting down and get it started. Okay, so I've got my wax melting for the first pour. For a candle this size, I really could use a bigger wax melter. This one only holds 10 pounds. I've got 7.5 in it right now. But unfortunately I don't have a bigger one, so I'm going to have to make do with what I've got. Which means I'm going to have to do it in 2 parts. Usually when you're pouring layers in a candle like that, you've got to really watch your temperatures and get them close. With this one, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Just because of the size of it, it's not going to cool enough to where a re-pour on top of it is going to make a huge issue. If it does cause a line or something, that's just something I can easily fix later with the heat gun. So I'm going to watch it a little bit, but I'm not going to stress over it too much. So I'm going to melt this down, go ahead and add the color and the fragrance oil. While it's cooling enough to pour, I'm going to be melting the other batch. So hopefully within 10 minutes I should be able to pour one on top of the other, and almost like a continuous pour. So cross your fingers, hope it works out. Okay, so I've got my first batch melted down. It's over here cooling. As soon as that gets to cooling temperature, we'll pour. While that's cooling, I've got my second batch going. It's melting down. Not the ideal way to do it. You really need to do it all in one batch, but we can make this work. As long as I do everything just exactly the way I did on the first batch, this batch should be fine. Temperatures, the temperature I pour at, the cooling temperature, it's all going to have to match pretty close so this comes together as a seamless candle. The main thing that I'm really going to have to get right is the amount of dye that I put in. I don't want the bottom layer to be darker or lighter than the top. Luckily I counted, I keep pretty good records, so it should end up okay. And wish me luck on this part. Okay, so our first batch is cooled. We're ready to make a candle. Hopefully this isn't too boring to watch. Just nice, steady, even pour, not too fast, not too slow. Alright, so the bottom half's done. The second batch is just about ready to set off and start cooling. So I'll just keep an eye on that temperature, and hopefully by the time the second batch is cool, we'll be ready to go. Okay, so my second batch is ready to pour. Do a quick temperature check. Okay, it's pretty close. If it was a smaller candle and this had dried quite a bit, I might have an issue, but because it's so big, it didn't cool all that much. So these temperatures are pretty close, so I shouldn't have any issues. If I do, it's something I can go back and easily fix later. Okay, and that's that. That's a 2-gallon candle. Managed to make it through without any major issues. Just gonna let that cool. If I had to guess, I'd say probably about 2 days, just because of how big it is. But we'll just let that sit. I've got it on these nice baking racks so it can kind of get some airflow and cool evenly. So we're just gonna let that cool and do its thing and see how it turns out. Alright y'all, so we're completely finished. As you can see, it dried perfectly. There were no heat lines. I was kind of worried about the different layers, but I had the temperature just right. You can't tell where the layer was once it finally dried. I did run into a bit of a hiccup whenever I finished. I just went by the actual size that was advertised for the container, which was 2 gallons. That ended up being a little bit short. It filled up to about here. Didn't really look good, so I wanted a little bit higher. So I had to add about another 2 pounds of wax and fragrance oil. What I should have done to correct that in the beginning was, before I even started making the candle, I should have just tared off the weight on this, just filled it up with water just to see how much it would actually hold. Then that would have let me know that it was a little bit bigger than 2 gallons. Altogether, this ended up being 308 gallons, or 308 ounces of wax and fragrance oil. That's about 19¼ pounds. Just to give you some idea of the dimensions on this, you can tell how big it is just by looking at it. I mean, you can tell I've got really big hands. You can tell how big it is compared to me. But this is the 4-ounce candle that I do. Get out of here. Come on. So just to give you an idea of how big it actually is, this is the 4-ounce candle that I make, and this is the 8-ounce candle. The dimensions on this, it's 10 inches wide, 14 inches high. All together with wax, fragrance oil, all the parts of the candle, plus the container, it weighs in at 28 pounds. That's finished product. Last time I made one this size, a lot of people were asking me about the burn time of it. The short answer is I don't know. I can't afford to make one of these and burn it for a year just to see how long it lasts. But we can do a little bit of math. Just some quick math on this one, the 4-ounce candle. Burn time on that is 25 to 30 hours. So on the low end, you can figure that's about 6¼ hours per ounce. Assuming that the math is linear, which it probably isn't, but it's really all we've got to go by. But assuming that that equation holds true with this one, for the 308 ounces, 6¼ hours per ounce. The total burn time on this, we can assume, is going to be 1,925 hours. That's quite a lot of candle. So hope you like this video. It was real fun to make this. Hopefully I can get another order and make another one. Now that I know a little bit more about how to do it. I'm gonna list this in my Etsy shop. I'm gonna put the link in the description. So if anybody's watching, they want their own, feel free to hit me up. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the next one.